Hi guys, and welcome to the Lunge and Lift podcast. Today we are joined by a very special guest, our colleague, friend, Chloe Cassar. Chloe is a weightlifter extraordinaire. She's very strong, great coach, very accomplished in the weightlifting and CrossFit space. And today we're going to be talking about all things weightlifting, CrossFit, some female body image stuff, and lots of other interesting topics. So Chloe, welcome. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me. You really made me look good there. So
that's the idea.
A good thing.
Go now. Job's done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Tell us about yourself. Tell us your story. How did you get into fitness? What was your journey in, and why weightlifting?
So I got into fitness, I'd say six-ish, just over 6 years ago. I just went to a regular gym, a pure gym, just wanted to get fit, didn't really know what I was doing. Had a PT at the time, I don't even think he knew what he was doing. So I kind of was like, that's not going to work. Was just squatting, and some random person was like, hey, you're pretty good at squatting, you should try weightlifting. And it was either, is this man trying to like talk to me because he wants to get to know me, or is he telling me that because actually what he's saying is true? And I was like, cool, thanks. I had no idea what weightlifting was. So I just continued living my life. And I'd say within about 2 weeks, another person that I briefly knew from school was like, hey, you're really good at that, you should try weightlifting. And I was like, well, 2 random people have just told me you should try weightlifting, and I had no idea what it was. So I Googled how to learn weightlifting, and at the time CrossFit wasn't as big as it is now, and it was really hard to find someone that did weightlifting. So I found this CrossFit box and I emailed them and I said, look, I want personal training, I don't want to do CrossFit, I don't really know what it is, I want to learn weightlifting. And that was my first box, CrossFit S11, which is no longer, it's now Sleven. And I had a guy called Daniel Meekson who taught me from the beginning how to do weightlifting. He unfortunately went all the way to Australia, and then Chris Howard, who ran it at the time, took over. And I'd say within about 3 months of coaching me weightlifting, he said, I can't coach you anymore, you're too good, and you need to go to a weightlifting coach. I didn't know how good I was, or that you could find a weightlifting coach. But I stayed with him because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Stayed with him, and he was like, maybe you should try CrossFit. You're strong. You'd be really good at it. So in that period, I did CrossFit. I liked it. I didn't love it. And then I did my own research, found a coach, and was basically told, you need to pick one. So pick weightlifting, and then from there I found the love of coaching. And Chris Howard, my first coach, was like, look, you'd make a really good coach, you should train into it and we'll start you here. And that's basically where my journey started, and I didn't look back since.
Nice.
So it's kind of like other people saw what I couldn't see, gave me the opportunity and the confidence to really pursue what I'm doing now. And I think I've really learned from those people that have helped me along the way.
Have you found that when you look back into like those past things, when people have said, oh, you're really good, do you ever think back to what you was doing? And like, because when you see now potential like say members and clients and stuff moving, do you know what they then saw in you at that time? Do you see those things? So what do you think it was that made them think that you was pretty good?
I still have videos of back when I very first started, and I sometimes look at them and I think, yeah, that's pretty good. But in my head, but like now in reflection, but in my head, because I think it's when you're still yourself, it's hard to say, oh yeah, you have potential. Obviously now from going through training and doing all my own coaching, I can understand how someone moves, if they're upright, if they're in a really nice position in a squat, if they can bounce in and out without any pain or just so clean. And now I can see with me, the videos that I saw, I kind of just took to it.
Yeah.
You know, you just see someone that's like, how do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened. I can kind of see with the videos. I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it. And then I actually kind of learned backwards to understand why I did the moves that I was doing.
Did you have any previous like sporting background or anything like that to kind of, because a lot of that comes into like body awareness. Like for someone like myself, I feel I'm relatively adept to most movements, but I kind of didn't get into any sort of training until I did a bit of curls in school, but that was about it. And then I got out of school, and then I didn't really get into proper training until I was probably about like 20. So, you know, did you have anything like that, or? The
only sport I ever did was figure skating, which everyone's always like, oh, figure skating. I only did it briefly, but I think for figure skating you needed to be body aware, because if you didn't, you'd be on the ice and you're on a very small blade. That definitely helped with CrossFit, because you'd be moves that would, like a pistol, you did that on the ice, which I did, and then I did it in CrossFit. I was like, oh, but I'd learn that on the ice while I'm moving.
It's like a gymnast doing a muscle-up. You mean I'm just getting up to the top of the ring? Yes, I'm not doing a muscle-up. Yeah.
So that's the only form of sport I did. Other than that, I was never really sporty. I guess you can say I didn't like team sports, because I've obviously chosen a single sport. CrossFit, you can definitely class it as a single sport. So yeah, that's basically it. I hated any form of cardio, and I can say I still do.
So what are your numbers, just for our listeners to hear? So obviously, weightlifting, for those that don't know, is you've got snatch and the clean and jerk, and a lot of the two movements that kind of go alongside that will be like a front squat and a back squat. Some might argue a deadlift to some degree, but I don't know if we should really go into that way. So what is your snatch and clean and jerk at the moment?
Best in competition is 83 snatch. Yep. And 100 kilo clean and jerk.
Nice. And what about in training?
85 and still 100, but that's a mental.
Yeah. Nice. And what about your back squat and front squat?
Back squat is 165 and front squat is 141. For reference, I compete in the 76 weight class. I did compete in the 71, and way back when I did compete in the 69 when they had it, but I just made this decision to move up.
Stay in the thicker lifestyle. It's good. It's good stuff.
Exactly.
Everything just feels better. Joints, everything just is good.
I couldn't tell you what my deadlift is, because I just don't do a 1RM, because I don't need to for weightlifting.
No, I know, that's very true.
It's all clean pulls, but yeah, that would be more powerlifting that I know. So Rob, I think you'd be more interested in my deadlift than me.
Yeah. So the big thing I wanted to kind of get from that as well is the fact you instantly differentiated between competition and in the gym, because we've mentioned about it in previous podcasts, stuff like that. It's how when you're in the gym, you've got like the perfect bar, the perfect music, all these type of things are just right, that you're in your comfort zone. And sometimes people can really thrive in competition, and sometimes people can essentially, they don't necessarily perform because the pressure can get to them. So what kind of, obviously your lifts are pretty similar. So what do you feel when you go to competition? Do you feel that you thrive, or do you get a bit taken back by it at the moment?
I've definitely evolved, because when I first started, competitions was something that would stress me out. I couldn't sleep. I would just panic, because weightlifting and CrossFit are very different. In CrossFit, you've got the whole crowd that will be like, come on, you can do it, and like will cheer you on constantly. There's music, there's crowds. Weightlifting, yes, there's crowds, but as soon as that athlete steps onto the platform, it's dead silent. There's just the spotlight on you, and you can just see 3 judges. So that, when I first started, was like, oh my God, everyone's staring at me. I don't know what I'm doing. And I used to miss a hell of a lot of lifts because I was nervous, because I didn't know, I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing because everyone was staring at me. And then now it's kind of that's the atmosphere that I need. So you do your warm-up lifts at the back, you know, you've got everyone with their coach and you can hear stuff going on. But then as soon as you're at the front, it's silent and the platform's ready for you because you're out there, because you're doing what you know how to do, and you've been training all this time, and it's your time to shine. And it's not even, I wouldn't say it is to like show off and you can do it, but you've worked up to this moment for however many months that you're leading up to a competition, and now is when all the hard work, people can see what you've been doing. So now I think competition really does help, because if I miss a lift at the back, I sometimes feel fine. It's not like, oh my God, I've missed a lift, I can't do it at the platform. That's fine, I've missed a lift, I can miss it here, but I know what I'm doing out there. And I think that pressure of the atmosphere helps you.
Have you got it?
I definitely keep lifting a CrossFit competition now.
What, with all that hype around you?
Have someone here and then me lift, or like, it's completely changed.
Is there anything that you would say to one of the listeners that say have never competed or anything like that? Is there anything that you'd give, any recommendations for someone that wants to compete, for that they're nervous for their first time or anything like that?
Have a routine. So it could be small things, like I always eat the same meal after a weigh-in. I'll always like take some downtime. A lot of people listen to music before they go out, just so they can block everything out. That doesn't work for me, so I don't do it. I just need to be focused. So I would just say, find a routine that makes you feel comfortable. So for me, structure is comfortable. So if I know I'm doing this, then I know what follows. The first time is going to be scary. I can't, unfortunately, say it's going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to be scary. But once you've done your first one, you know what it feels like. And for people's first competitions, I'd always just say, just get it done. Don't go out there thinking that you're going to lift the world and you're going to lift every PB. Yes, you may, but I would just get it done so you know what it feels like. And then from there, you can kind of learn from the competitions and go forward.
Would you recommend choosing a weight class, or just turning up who you are on that day and kind of embrace it on the first one?
No, whatever you weigh, that's going to be a weight class. Don't take it too seriously too soon, but just let your body do what it needs to do. You don't need to have any added pressure. Well, my first competition, I didn't have to weight cut because I decided to be what I was. Yes, if you want to take it seriously and you think, okay, weightlifting is what I want to do, then pick a weight class. But you might change weight class. I've changed weight class. You might think, actually, I need to be a tiny bit lighter and compete in a different weight class so I can be more competitive. Or I might need to be heavier to be more competitive. You need to take that as you will, but as you've done it after so long, because if you just use it straight away, you've committed, and you can always change. So, I say everyone does it, but there's a fair few people that all play between weight classes because they just need to see what works for them.
I guess that is the big thing, is not going in with any unnecessary stress. And I know it's for me, this is where, so to do a weightlifting competition is, I'd love to do one, but I feel I'd pick a weight class because I feel relatively proficient in moving, but then on the same side of that, I don't know about that type of environment, and that's where I feel I should just turn up, as you say, like who I am on the day, and just see what I can lift and go for it.
Just see what it feels like. Otherwise there's so many added pressures that you just don't need.
So when you obviously within weightlifting, have you found that you find more women now getting involved? Is there a lot more women wanting to get stronger and see where their bodies are capable? Have you found over the past 6 years?
Hell of a lot. So when I first started, there wasn't loads of women in it, and it was hard to find women that really wanted to do it. I know when I was training at my first CrossFit gym, I'd be paired with boys, purely because, not that I'd be doing exactly the same numbers, but I'd be lifting slightly heavier than the girls, or because they just didn't choose to partake in weightlifting, or there just wasn't enough girls to be partnered with. The standards when I first started into weightlifting, the women's, yes, it was hard to get into like the national standards of going to an English championships or British championships or even a regionals. It was hard, but it wasn't impossible.
Yeah.
And I guess that's from speaking from my experience. Obviously, that's not for everyone. It's all relative. But now there's so many women in the sport that actually there's a lot of good women. So they're having to make set the bar higher and higher for what entry totals you will need, because it's, you know, so competitive. So many more women are getting into the sport, and that's either by CrossFit or just out on their own accord that they just want to do weightlifting.
What is it about weightlifting that got you hooked? Like when you started trying it, was it the training? Was it the thought of competition? Or was it just like the fun of the movements, or just being good at it? Like,
it was a mix of, it's really fucking difficult.
Yeah. Like,
it's not easy. It's a technical sport. Yes, it's strength based, but if you don't have the technique, then you're not gonna be good at it. And I think it was, for me, I was like, do you know what? This is more than just, you know, sitting down, standing back up again. It's having to think about where my body's going, how it's moving, but also using my strength in my favor and not as a hindrance if I didn't know the technique. So I think from there I was like, I just want to be good at these two things. And yes, I won't lie, training is pretty boring sometimes because you do two movements. You don't, you know, you're not going to get good at something if you're not doing it. So yeah, my training week is snatch, clean and jerk, front squat, back squat, pulls. That's basically it. Some people I'll be like, oh, I can't do that every week, but for me, that's the only thing that's going to get you better at a skill.
No, you're right. When you look at Ash's training, I suppose all he does single arm pull-ups and a little bit of dips here and there as well, some running.
But
some people might find that boring for you, Ash. But you know,
yeah, a lot of people
living a life.
Exactly. So when it comes to competition, you've placed third at British Championships, haven't you? So have you got any obviously once all this COVID malarkey is out the way and stuff like that, have you got any visions of competing again and obviously hopefully getting further and placing better?
Of course. I think you always want to do better.
Yeah.
Third, you know, last year when I did it, it was a very competitive class. So I'm very happy that I placed third. Yes, of course, you always want to get second or you want to get first. It's more so, I don't see it as competition against other women. And I think for weightlifting, especially in the classes that I've lifted in, a lot of people, we're not like, oh, I don't want you to win because you're going to get more than me and I want to win. It's, do you know what? I really want you to do well because you've got this far and like, good on you. So I don't resent the girls that are in front of me or behind me or anything, because it's all like, I really want you to do well. And it's really weird to have a sport like that, where you kind of want everyone to do just as good as you. And it just shows that, yeah, you've put in the work, so have I, and I've got this far, but it's okay because next time, you know, I'll try and get second, I'll try and get first. But I don't think ultimately that's what I always gun for. I just want to make sure that I'm happy in weightlifting and wherever I get is, you know, a testament to me of what I've put in the work.
What do you think it's going to take to unlock the next wave of PBs?
Just a hell of a lot more training, a lot more eating, and just getting done the accessories that no one ever wants to do. But yeah, so training's going well. But
have you found it good during lockdown?
Sorry?
Have you found training good during lockdown?
No, and I tell you why. So we got a set in the garden, you know, decided to just take over, wreck all the tiles, but that's fine. Training's very different in the garden than it is in the gym, and that's the only reason I say no. Because you obviously don't have your coach. I have a lot of communication with him throughout the week and through what I'm training, but when you're training on your own in an environment that isn't solely focused around, you know, what you're doing, it's just completely different. So for lockdown, yes, I've been training, but I've kind of just been ticking along. I haven't been, let's just do PBs, let's try and get as much as we can. No, let's just move. Let's just make sure that my body remembers what it's doing. And then if we find something, then we'll change it. But yes, I've been training, but just because if I didn't train, I'd go insane.
You're greasing the groove.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what, obviously, throughout your lifting career, so your past, say, 6 years, I know, like myself, you've overcome quite a few injuries. So did you want to maybe touch on some of the injuries that you have and how you've managed to battle to where you are now?
So I guess the biggest one is I had a tear in my labrum, so my hip, which I don't think I really noticed until like it was 1.5 years gone. So I would just be standing and I'd be in pain and I'd be like, oh, that's fine, that's just normal. That's just how my life is. And then it kind of went to my back, and then my back gave me a lot of issues. And then from there they were like, no, actually you've torn your hip. So there was a choice of I had to get hip arthroscopy or just live with it. I was in so much pain that I had to have it sewed back together again. All in all, I was out, I'd say 9 months. So I had the surgery, and then they were like, you'll be back to how you were training in 8 weeks. I was like, 8 weeks? And he was like, yeah, you'll be back to where you are. 8 weeks happened, and I still probably couldn't walk as well on it as what I thought. And that mentally was a really big blow for me, because I was like, I'm never going to get back to where I was. I put in all this hard work. I don't know how I'm going to do it again. So more than the actual injury, it was just my head saying, how am I going to get over this injury that's just stopped my life? Because by that point, that's all I do is I coach, I train, and I love those things. And if I don't have that, what have I got? Yeah. I did a lot of rehab. You know, I paid for a lot of like my own rehab to, you know, get it fixed. And I just slowly got back into it. And then when I did, I was stronger than I was before. But knowing that it was like 3 times as long as what it could have been or should have been was hard. So I missed out on an English championships, a British championships, which is hard, like watching all your teammates go and like having that like support, but me just watching from the sidelines. I think it made me grow as like an athlete of what I wanted, because I think that really showed me that, you know, I actually really do love this sport. I want to do good at it. So yeah, they're hard, but you can adapt to them. So I've had other ones like small wrist injuries, elbow injuries. I just train around them. I don't sulk in it and be like, oh, I can't do anything. You kind of just get over it.
That's a big thing when it comes to injuries like that. It's a lot of the time people have, say, like as a sore back or something like this. That's nowhere near as bad as, say, like what you had. And they'll be like, oh, I can't do anything. So, well, you could maybe do something seated, or you could do a machine-based exercise. There's so many things you can do. You're just choosing not to move because you're there, as I say, feeling hard done by for yourself. Like, oh, I can't do anything.
I feel pity and sorry for yourself.
No.
Yeah, I see that a lot with people. They'll be like, oh, I've just had my back. I've just done too much of this. Okay, well, you don't need to take... If you want to take some time off, fine. But then don't be taking 3 weeks off if you've just, you know, pulled a heavy deadlift and you're got storms.
Have you found that weightlifting has massively, would you say got bigger, got more interest since CrossFit has really pushed it? And have you found that to be, as a weightlifting coach, have you found that to be a positive thing?
100% it's got bigger, and, you know, CrossFit is a huge part to play in that. I think it's a great thing to get, you know, men and women into the sport. The sport of weightlifting itself, even though weightlifting's in CrossFit, is very different to what weightlifting in CrossFit is. So if you weightlift in CrossFit, Ash is looking at me like, how does that make sense? Yeah. But if you lift in CrossFit and you get a lift and it's a press out, that's great for CrossFit. Well done. Congrats. Appreciate you. However, if in weightlifting, you'd be like, what did you just do?
It's like the deadlift and a hitch. In CrossFit, it'd count. In powerlifting, it wouldn't. If that bar stops at any point or goes back down, it's the exact same thing. Yeah.
Like, well done, but what was that little jiggle you did? So yes, it's great, but also if you're really good at CrossFit and you can snatch fairly decent for CrossFit, and you want to go to weightlifting, sometimes the ego comes with you and you need to leave that. And that's kind of what I see. That's the only bad thing I kind of see, is the ego. I don't think there's an ego in weightlifting as much. There are, there's few people, here or there, but that's like any sport. But I think weightlifting, if you think you're good at weightlifting and CrossFit and go straight to actually weightlifting the sport, I think you just need to tone it down, because like I said, weightlifting is not like that. We're like, let's do all good, do good.
With the press out.
Sorry?
Can you explain the press out? Because it's, I know the rule, but why is that the rule?
I think, there isn't actually, I'm a technical official, and that's just how you just see it in one clean movement, because for here it's just a mini press out. Yeah,
well, I guess I just thought that it's harder to press a weight than it is to jerk a weight.
True, but then I could be wrong. As a technical official, it doesn't actually say the reason why. It just has to be one movement.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Strict press. To say you clean and strict press.
Strict press.
A really slow jerk.
We're long. They used to do that, but we're long past that now. It has to be a power jerk or a split jerk.
Yeah. So with the strength training, I guess that has definitely made women in particular not necessarily afraid to lift heavy, and not afraid of like how their body changes and so forth, because I guess going, say, prior to CrossFit, we keep talking about CrossFit, but that's, I think, because CrossFit was such a huge change in the fitness industry for just how fitness is performed. And I think when you then think about, say, women within CrossFit, and then taking that leaks out into all other areas of training, that women getting stronger, women having more defined bodies and stuff like that, rather than just running, trying to get thin and stuff like that, is like, for me, the body image has been such a positive move forward in both categories. It also has made men want to look better and stuff like that, or they like the thing of eating for performance. But sometimes it's not necessarily for performance, it's just because they want to eat too much food. But it's within CrossFit and the body image thing. Do you feel that it's made you feel a lot more confident in the way you train and the way you look? And do you feel that, have you seen that from other, say, members and other, say, clients that you found that they've had any body image issues or anything?
I think this is not a touchy one. I don't want to say for everyone, but I've had a few clients that let's go for me. Let's start from me.
Yeah.
So I'm not like the skinniest of women, but also I'm aware that I'm in a weight class dominated sport. So I know I have to be in a certain weight class, and you're kind of stuck to that unless you want to, lose a leg sometimes. I think for me, I see my weight as, my weight lifts a lot of weight, and that's impressive to me. So I'm strong as a woman. Yes, I may not be stereotypically thin, but that's not what I see as beautiful or what I want. That's just what I want, is to make sure that my body performs how it needs to perform, and I'm happy with how it needs to look for that. And I think a lot of women that I've coached or trained, they've maybe not have been as comfortable at the beginning. And don't get me wrong, neither have I. When I first didn't even train, I've always had a broad shoulders, and that for me has been like, I can't hide them. But now I'm like, well, actually no, because it shows that I can actually be powerful with them, and I'm going to use them to my advantage. I think some women, they think you know, it's all over social media. Everyone has to be tiny. You don't need to be tiny. If you want to have muscles, have muscles. Even if you don't want to have muscles and, you know, you're just a little bit less, as Rob likes to say, thicker, fine. But it's just being comfortable in who you are and how you move. You don't have to train in weightlifting, CrossFit, or any sport and be sick thin. If you want to train and just work out, train and work out. It doesn't matter what you look like, because you're doing that because it makes you happy, or you want to change to be the body shape you want to be. I think now a lot of more women are being comfortable with the shape that they are. Everyone says strength training makes you really bulky. It doesn't, unless you want it to be. Yeah. So unless you're going to train to be, you know, you want to be a fitness model, then you're going to try and train to be bulky. But if you're out intentionally doing, you know, hypertrophy twice a week, I don't think you're going to become, you know, Mr. Muscle.
Definitely not. And I think
actually
with a weight,
make yourself that.
Yeah, weightlifters, they don't tend to do more than like 3 reps, is it, or something like that?
No, yeah. 3, the absolute max.
Exactly. Your 5 is way too many.
You know, training for our muscles to move the weight, not to look good.
Yeah. I think it's a great one for the health, performance, aesthetics triangle. The thing about aesthetics is usually you're doing it to make other people happy. If you want to look a certain way, even if in the sport of bodybuilding, you're trying to please the judge, whereas health and performance are much more internally driven motivators. So you want to be able to lift a certain way, or you want to feel good and feel healthy, which I think is much healthier mindset to have, to want it for your own benefit rather than to please other people, which I think a lot of aesthetic focused goals tend to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel once I come out of like the bodybuilding scene, obviously I've gone through periods of wanting to be in shape and stuff like that. But it's funny, from when I had my daughter Chloe, that it made me understand more that the body composition side of things was then, it really wasn't a thing anymore. And I was a lot happier in who I was. Don't get me wrong, there's still, I could be a little bit, say, leaner and stuff like that in places which I will do things about, but it's now not my sole focus. As you said, with the aesthetic side of thing, it is trying to, I want to look good on Instagram, or I want to look good when I'm on the beach, or these type of things. But if you're then, you know, making other areas of your life essentially feel shit, is it really then worth it? So, and I think that's where, you know, once you start training for something in particular, you don't even think about, unless it is a bodybuilding, but you then don't think about the composition side of things. Like you are now, I want to train to move well, move fast, and if I can have as much, so if you're in the 76 category, if I can be as close to 76 as possible and shift the most amount as possible, then that's exactly what you want. You're not thinking, what do I look like at 76? You're like, no, I want to be 75.9 on the day, feel very comfortable, then feed up after my weigh-in, weigh even more, and then lift as much as you can and feel really good about yourself on the platform.
Yeah, I think it's definitely for weightlifting, and, you know, I think for women in particular, but when I made the choice to go up a weight class, that for me wasn't a big, oh God, I'm going to look huge. It was, I need to be bigger because I perform better when I'm bigger. And that for me wasn't an issue of I'm going to look huge. It's, no, I'm going to be more competitive. I'm going to be better at the sport. I'm going to be at that nice weight range where mass moves mass, but I'm not too massive that actually it's going to hinder me. And I think CrossFit showing that yes, you can be heavier, but you probably might move better. And that's totally okay. So it's just being comfortable in who you are, and then your body image will kind of flow with you. But you sometimes have to do work on yourself to actually believe that that's okay. And I don't give a shit what you think of me.
Yeah. Do you know, just as you were saying that, and it just made me think of that, as people start putting on weight, this doesn't necessarily just mean, say, like say, using your example, you're not just now getting fat for the fat's sake. That's not what you're not doing, like a dirty bulk or anything. That's not what this is. You're eating. This is where eating to perform is exactly what you're doing. If you need some more energy, you're not necessarily going to be worried about or am I in too much of a surplus or deficit? You're saying, cool, as long as my weight is staying around a similar sort of place, then you know you're in a good place. So you're eating then to make sure you fuel your sessions. So thought I'd make it clear for the listeners that it's when we do talk about, say, especially eating for the weight class and getting bigger, it's not just getting fatter. That's the easy option. That's what I did. So you don't need to do that one. The idea is you just get bigger by then, you know, eating steadily, increasing your calories, making sure that your training sessions are your essentially gauge of how much food you're eating and if you're not eating enough or if you're eating too much.
Yeah, it's not just eating ice cream.
No. Do you have any advice for people that want to get into weightlifting, or any CrossFitters that are looking to make the switch to just go balls deep into weightlifting?
So if you've not done it before, try it. You might surprise yourself. I think you don't need to be great at it to do it. But that's, I think, a big thing that people are like, well, I'm not very good at it, so I'm not going to do it. You don't need to be good at it. If you enjoy it, do it. It's a great sport. Like I said, I personally feel like it's a great community, that it is. It's, you know, weightlifting's small. It's not a huge sport. It's not like football. Everyone does it. If you're in CrossFit and you want to take the plunge, might be hard. Might be hard for you to let go of doing all your pull-ups, because, you know, you need to save your hands. If you've got ripped hands, you can't lift that barbell. Try it. If you don't like it, you can go back to CrossFit, because you're not going to get any worse at CrossFit, because you're still going to do. You might just get better at the weightlifting stuff, all the strength stuff, because you'll be doing more squats. But also, don't take it too seriously. Don't do it and think, I have to do every single competition. I need to be the best. You don't. But great if you do. If you are really good and you end up getting a medal at the British or the English, or just even being in the top 10 of what you want to be in, just do it because you like doing it and you love doing it. And like I said, you can always go back to CrossFit if you want to kill yourself and sweat out and die every time. I don't miss that.
You miss barbell cycling?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you the last time I did it.
That's really nice. That's really good. And so I thought what we wanted to do is to finish off, we just got a couple of questions which we thought would quick fire you, put you on the spot and just see what your responses are. So what's your favorite lift?
I'm going to say snatch.
Why?
Snatching, is it out snatch, clean and jerk, or
no, it could be any lift you do, and why?
I do like snatch, obviously, weightlifting, but I do love a back squat. I feel like that may be actually my favourite.
Yeah, if I was to think an exercise for you, I would say back squat. Just
if it's not out of snatch, clean and jerk, I'm going to say back squat. Sit down, stand up, lift heavy.
What's your favourite hype song or training song?
That was the worst question to ask me, because, to be honest, the radio could be on and I'm that much focused, I don't know what's going on. Okay. I think for my training, everyone's is different. For me, I'm not competition. I don't have music on. I don't really know what I'm doing. But I have been in a little bit of country at the moment.
Nice.
Work out to country. It just chills you out. You just feel happy. It's great.
Yeah. No, I'm all for that. I'm all listening for some country. What has been the your best training tip that you've received?
That I've received? Oh, that's a good
one that stuck with you.
Do you know what my coach always says? And it's a meaningful place. It's you can do it. And as small as that is, I always, even if I'm not with him and I'm going for a lift, I always just say, but you can do it. And that's someone believes in you so much that they're telling you can do it. You've got to believe in yourself that you can do it. And that's a tip that I'd probably just believe in yourself and you can do it.
That's a really nice one, actually. That's really nice.
Oh, I thought that was rubbish. I thought you were going to say, well, what you need to do is keep your weight in your heels and all that. But no, actually, it's just you got this. So yeah.
That's really nice. What's your favourite cheat meal?
I do like a pizza. I do. Just pizza it is.
What toppings?
I'd have to have a bit of Parma ham, mushrooms, and maybe a bit of burrata cheese. Yeah, there was a stage where when I was trying to get a little bit heavier, every Friday would be a pizza day, and that would like get me on to train. Yeah.
The energy you have the next day after a pizza or anything like that there's a lot of good energy in that. So.
Right. So it would always
100%.
be Friday, and then the Saturday would kind of be the Saturday session. You'd be like, this is it.
Time to lift some shit.
I might have feeling a little bit, swollen because of the salt, but
So overall, what do you see coming out of lockdown now for yourself? Do you see like what are you going back into? Are you doing anything new when it comes to like your business or training wise?
It's hard to tell because who knows what's going to happen. But I want to definitely get back into competitions. I do miss the competition floor. And straight away, it's not going to be like, right, let's go back at it. Let's just stay top 3. No, let's just do it. Get the competitions under my belt again, because again, everyone's not done them in so long. And just enjoy it. What I have found for my training, so obviously I coach adults, but I've coached children before, and looking back on it, I really enjoyed that. It's a completely different way of training. So obviously when the gyms are able to open and kids are allowed in a little bit more, I think that's what I want to go down a little bit further, just get the youth into weightlifting, because that's a hard thing to do. But yeah,
that's amazing. That sounds really good. So apart from that, I just want to thank you for coming on today. I think it's been really nice, really refreshing to kind of hear some of your thoughts and that. Where can people find you? Are you on Instagram and stuff like that? What is your Instagram?
Instagram.
Yeah.
You should probably say that as in like, I know you're on Instagram, but I'm going to pretend that you're not on Instagram. It's at Chloo, so CHLOCHLOO, and I post a hell of a lot of training videos. I post a lot of training fails, because it's all right to fail. People got to know this, because all we see on Instagram is like, oh, you've done that great lift and you keep doing real good lifts. Yeah, but you don't see all the ones that you're falling over and you're missing them behind. I post a lot of training videos and just life. So if you want to follow me, do what you've got to do. Any questions? Yeah.
Nice. And where do you coach out of?
Currently, I coach out of CrossFit 1971, or I'd say Gym 1971. I've changed the name.
Yep.
I do some online stuff, so you can go onto my Instagram for that, and also Crystal Palace, but that's for youth. So unless you are under 16, which I hope you're not, because I've sworn in this, then that's where I'll do some youth stuff.
That's amazing. Well, for me, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate all the stuff you've been giving to our listeners as well, giving them some good insight into lifting for females and weightlifting in general. I think it's been really good. So just want to thank you.
Well, thank you both. It's been a pleasure.
That's good. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, guys, for listening. As always, please share this episode if you did enjoy it. And you can find us on all the normal platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Apart from that, thanks a lot. And thank you for your time. And we'll catch you in the next episode.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.